Okay, today we are going to be talking about body cavities and the names for the different body cavities. These notes are due Thursday, September 5th. So, the dorsal cavity is the cavity that lies in the back and it protects the nervous system. And the dorsal cavity is divided into the cranial cavity and the vertebral cavity. So, the cranial cavity is where the brain is, and the vertebral cavity runs along the column. So these areas marked, they're kind of greenish that run along here. That's the vertebral cavity, and then the cranial cavity is at the top. The ventral cavity, so as we learn with directional terms, ventral means towards the front. The ventral cavity houses the internal organs, or the viscera, and is further divided into the thoracic cavity, which lies above the diaphragm, and the abdominal cavity, which is below. This slide clearly is messed up, so we're going to go ahead and skip this slide. The abdominopelvic cavity is separated from the superior thoracic cavity by the diaphragm, and is composed of two subdivisions. You got the abdominal cavity, which has the stomach, intestines, spleen, liver, and other organs, and the pelvic cavity, which is the pelvis, bladder, reproductive organs, and rectum. The ventral body cavity membranes. So we have the parietal serosa, which lines the body walls. So it's going to be the one that is right within the skeletal and muscle layer, so it's kind of lining the entire body wall. A visceral serosa covers the internal organs, so these membranes are kind of a certain type of tissue that lines it, so it's like a lining. And so the parietal is around the body walls, the visceral is around the organs, and then what separates those two from each other is a serous fluid. And this helps create a friction-free environment. For example, the heart. Here you see the blue line, which would be the parietal serosa. Okay, so it's lining that pericardial cavity. And then you have the yellow, you have the visceral serosa. So it's lining the heart, so it's touching the heart itself. And in between them is this layer of fluid. And that allows the heart to continually beat in a friction-free environment. Otherwise, it would constantly be rubbing up against other organs and the body wall and stuff like that. So you want it to be able to beat without having to rub up against something, because then that would cause friction and would eventually cause damage. The serous membrane. So you can think about it as if you had a balloon. The outer wall of the balloon is like the parietal serosa, and if you put your fist into it, the fist is acting kind of like the organ itself. So the part that is touching your hand itself would be the visceral serosa, and then the air that's in between is going to be like the fluid that is going to allow it to exist in a friction-free environment. It helps protect it, helps cushion it. So it's very important that membranes are there and that they're intact. So here again you see the heart serosa with the parietal pericardium, the parietal space between it with the fluid, and then the visceral pericardium up against the heart itself. You also have other body cavities, such as the oral and digestive cavity. So this is the mouth and the cavities of the digestive organs. The nasal cavity is located within the nose. The orbital cavity houses the eyes. The middle ear cavity contains the bones called ossicles that help transmit sound and vibrations in your ear. And then you have synovial joint cavities, which is located in your skeletal system where your bones meet. So here you can see a picture of those cavities that we just talked about. So just kind of familiarize yourself with where they are. Here you see a synovial joint in the vertebrae, and then the fluid that's in between there. So the same parietal serosas and visceral serosas exist in these cavities as well. Here we see abdominopelvic regions. So a lot of times they will refer to an area of the abdomen according to what region it's in. And you can see each of these are labeled. You have the right and left hypochondriac region, and in the middle is the epigastric, the right and left lumbar, the right and left iliac, and then you have the umbilical and hypogastric or pubic region. So here you see the organs of the abdominopelvic region and kind of what quadrant of the abdominopelvic region they lie in. So this kind of helps doctors be able to localize exactly what portion of the abdomen they're talking about and then what organs might be affected with maybe an injury or a disease or something. And then here it's categorized into larger quadrants, the upper right and left upper quadrants, and right and left lower quadrants.